The Nordic region consists of Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Iceland, as well as the Faroe Islands, Greenland, and Åland. Containing a multitude of natural resources, each Nordic country has its own strengths and comparative advantages, and together they form one of the world's most prosperous regions. Nordcham Indonesia is a membership organization for Nordic companies operating in or with an interest in Indonesia, as well as Indonesian companies looking to work with Nordic technology and companies. One of the largest Nordic chambers in Asia, Nordcham Indonesia, was launched just 3 years ago in 2019. Today, I'll be speaking with Mr. Magnus Ramstad Dahl, the director of Nordcham Indonesia, on what lies ahead for Nordic companies as they venture into the land of opportunities, Indonesia. Watch this.
Hey Magnus, thanks for dropping by, man.
Great to be here.
Thank you. Now, just to let our audience know a little bit about where you come from, what you do, and what made you get into the business of chambers. Could you just highlight a few pointers, maybe take a few steps back into your life, and let us know what drove you to help businesses these days?
Yeah, so my name is Magnus, I'm Norwegian, and I did an exchange semester in Singapore Management University 10 years ago. That opened up my eyes to Southeast Asia. I was really excited about this region, and I wanted to come back, and started looking for an opportunity to come back, and randomly I got a job opportunity in Jakarta, and that changed my life.
Was that random or was it something you selected?
I looked for an opportunity in Southeast Asia, and then Jakarta came up an opportunity there.
Okay.
Then I started getting fascinated about chambers when I first experienced the Norwegian chamber here in Jakarta. I thought it was really cool. Business association, Norwegian companies doing business here, and started getting more and more interested in the chamber model and what that is, because it's not so common in Norway. You don't have that many chambers in Norway that I had exposure to before. That led me on a journey, and I started the Nordic Chamber in 2019.
Okay.
And I find it really fascinating. I really enjoy meeting new people and connecting people, which I think is an important part of a chamber. So
it's actually something I do. I do something like this on a daily basis as well, connecting people, meeting new people as well. It forms an integral part of who we are, what we do, and basically at this point in time, the only way forward. You know. Now, tell us about Nordcham Indonesia. What your capabilities are, and what you've done over the past 2 years.
Yes, so as you know, we started 2019, 5 months before the pandemic, which was a bit unfortunate timing. So most of our life has been during a pandemic reality. So we have a lot of ambition and things that we want to do in the future as well.
Right.
We're kind of just getting started. But so far we focus on 3 things, I would say. One is our market intelligence offering, where we keep members informed on what's happening in Indonesia, political updates, regulatory, macroeconomics, a lot about COVID, of course, during COVID, business opportunities, new capital city projects, things like that. That's something we are quite proud of, and that's probably our best offering, is the market intelligence. And then we do events, which again you can argue is also kind of market intelligence, because we invite in experts and do briefings at our events. We also have a roundtable event that we do once a month, which is something we've been modeling after the American Chamber in Indonesia. They have a monthly, it's called Amcham Services Breakfast. It's really, really good. You should try it sometime. Where they bring a lot of different people together from different sectors. Everyone shares what they see happening from their viewpoint.
In fact, I've been to one of these in Singapore. This was about 5 years back. It was a breakfast meeting, people from different sectors coming together, just like you said. At that point in time, I didn't have much to share, but I heard a lot, and I would dare say I learned a lot of new things. It's amazing, amazing breakfast event. This is something that we are looking to organize as well in the future. You know. Now,
So the third thing I would like to add that
Yes.
we do is actively connecting member companies to each other. You're in the same industry, you're both in the property industry, you should talk together, set up a lunch, introduce them by email, and introduce our members to our wider network as well. Those are like the three main things we do.
So when you talk about connecting people in the property industry, what exactly are you talking about? Connecting the developers to property agents or property investors to possible investment opportunities? How do you make the connections?
So property is not the best example actually, because
Yeah.
it's not any property companies, but
Yeah, yeah.
that's one example, right? So we don't have any developers, any Nordic developers, but we have companies that are kind of adjacent or suppliers to that space. So we have Jotun, which is a Norwegian paint company.
Right.
So they provide paint. We have Kone, which is a Finnish elevator and escalator company.
Right.
We have a cement company, like a sustainable cement solution. So that's an example where we just put them together in a room without really knowing exactly what they could do together, but the idea that just putting people together over lunch, for example, at least they'll have something to talk about and discuss the market. Maybe they can do something together, that's great. And it's surprising how often these companies have not yet met each other. And actually we can do that introduction and add some value.
You are absolutely right. You know, sometimes putting people together in a room, you'll be amazed at what actually happens. Because when it comes to various industries, like for example, if you're talking about like what you mentioned, paint, or even people who build escalators or elevators, when it comes to introducing them to maybe a developer in Indonesia, for that matter,
Yeah.
and then they realize, hey, this is a deal I can strike, this is something that I can actually do in Indonesia. Because I believe right now Indonesia actually is becoming a fantastic investment destination as well. As I know a lot of things are happening in Norway as well. You know, so it's actually vice versa. So now I do understand that at this point there are 64 million micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as over 250 Nordic companies in Indonesia. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure.
That's like my back of the envelope calculation. So it's a little bit hard to like, say exactly how many companies are here.
Right.
How do you define it, right? Do you
Right.
have a legal entity?
Right.
Or if you're working through a local partner or distributor, are you here? Are you not here? You know, like where do you draw the line?
Exactly,
So I would say
you know.
250 is more or less.
Yeah. Because when we do research, this is the number that screams at you in the face. You know, when you're talking about how many Nordic companies in Indonesia, it's like 250. So now.
That's what I normally say at least.
Yeah, it's an easier number to remember, right? So now, as we head into the post-pandemic world, right after COVID-19, some companies are struggling to get back on their feet again. Now, and also because of COVID, there have been a lot of restrictive measures that have been put into place. And due to this, these restrictive measures, of course, some companies can open up, some can't even come back to the office, and we still have some people working from home. Some bosses want their employees to turn up to the office again, and they say, "Hey, where's my family life balance? You know, it's all balanced up. You want me to come back to the office?" No, I believe all this has affected the Indonesian economy, and it has also affected the Nordic business community. As a chamber, how bad do you think the impact was, and what did you do to actually step in to take them to the next level or resolve some of these issues?
Yes, I mean, to start with, right, this is not a market where you do business over Zoom. You know, you need to be here.
Yeah.
A lot of companies found it really hard to do business trips to Indonesia, right? If you look at companies that are currently establishing themselves here, that definitely delayed things for them. Talking about the companies that were already here, they had to maneuver a lot of fast changing regulations,
Right.
which is normal to have fast changing regulations in Indonesia, but it was especially fast during the pandemic, I would say. That was a challenge. Of course, a lot of local businesses have gone bankrupt. I think it became increasingly important to develop a digital presence, to leverage digital channels, these large e-commerce companies, in order to reach your customers, right? Because they were sitting at home. Yeah, it was very challenging, especially for, of course, certain industries like F&B and tourism. And then you have other companies that are thriving, like our members Nokia and Ericsson. They're in the telecom industry. They did incredibly well because people were more on their phone, right? Watching more videos. So yeah, that's a general.
Yeah, when you talk about, yeah, it's true. You know, when you talk about technology, evolution of technology, adaptation of new technology, especially for the F&B, when you talk about food delivery, for example, parcel delivery, people who actually start to order things online. I don't need to go shopping anymore. I can just get whatever I need online. You know, unfortunately, when you're starting to buy stuff like clothes, you can't actually try them on. Then they came up with new solutions. Hey, you can actually buy online, and if it doesn't fit, you can always return it. You know, no questions asked, and we'll give you a full refund. So these are some of the things that have been happening. A lot of companies globally have had to adapt to the evolution, massive evolution overnight. It had to be done. Now, a lot of companies are at this point in time still trying to find their footing, because it's easy to say, hey, I want to change the entire concept, I want to change the direction of the company because whatever we've been doing for the last couple of years is not going to work anymore. Certain things, certain practices that we have had, in fact, well, it just doesn't make sense anymore. So we need to actually make those changes. Now, especially in Indonesia, we do understand that when it comes to adaptation of technology, a lot of companies are taking it step by step because evolution is a little bit slower. Of course, it's got huge, vast, you know, when you actually talk about potential, there's a lot of potential in Indonesia, but a lot of companies are taking it one step at a time, a little bit slower, trying to evolve and trying to adapt to new technology in Indonesia. Now, when you talk about the potential for growth for these small companies that are currently at this point in time still trying to make the changes, what do you think are the potentials for these companies?
So I would say, you're talking about smaller local companies?
The smaller local companies,
Yeah.
when they actually adapt to technology from Norway, certain changes that have been adopted in Norway.
Yeah, so it can be very challenging, of course. They have to adapt quite rapidly to get their offerings digitally and having people access it digitally. It's important to kind of have a strategy, and it depends what company you are, what business you are, right? But let's say you're selling products, retail, it seems like you need to have a presence in one of these large e-commerce players, for instance, and learn how to maneuver that and navigate that. And it seems to me that the Indonesian consumer is increasingly making their purchasing decisions based on online information. So at the very least, you have to have a Google Map presence, right? That's like the absolute minimum. Probably some social media, probably some Tokopedia store would be great. I see a lot of companies have a presence in several of these e-commerce companies. You can also buy directly from them. It's a little bit hard to say exactly what is the right strategy, but there's many different strategies out there. And I also see that there's now some Indonesian companies that are helping small companies get their online presence as a service. Like they're helping them to digitalize, actually. And that's really interesting. I think there's a lot of untapped potential there still.
For Nordic companies, when they want to venture into Indonesia for the first time, what do you think are some of the pitfalls that they should be looking out for? Mistakes that have actually been made by their predecessors, for example. What are some of the things that they should be looking out for? What should they avoid? And what should they really focus and go for?
As this is something I feel like it's a continuous journey of learning for me. So whenever there's a case of a failure, I really want to like understand that better, right? Because I think we should really learn from the failures as well, not just the success stories.
Exactly.
So of course Indonesia is a very complex market. I mean, you come to Jakarta, you see skyscrapers and malls and people looking Western, in their clothing, but it's far from a Western mindset, right? You really need to do your home lesson, you need to do your homework about this market, and don't rush it too fast, I would say. In most cases, our companies have a local partner. Those are very common strategy. Have a strong local partner. Of course, that local partner is a bit like a marriage, right? So just like you don't want to rush a marriage, you don't want to rush that local partnership either, and you want to really do your due diligence and really get to know that partner, because that's going to be key for your success in Indonesia. And of course, we also see some companies coming in and having 100% owned company. There's some success stories there too. Probably that's a little bit harder, I would say, especially if you're a Norwegian Nordic company and you want to maneuver this very different market. Ideally, you want to have like a local partner in some respect to help you navigate. Yeah, I would say that's the key points.
We've been talking about Nordic companies, and just to clarify to our viewers, Nordic would actually encompass Norway, Denmark,
Sweden,
Finland,
Iceland. Technically, it's also
two more, right? There's two more.
Faroe Islands.
Yes.
Åland Islands.
Åland, yes.
Maybe Greenland too. I think Greenland.
Is Greenland part of?
Technically, I think it's part of the group, or if I'm not mistaken.
A lot has been said about Nordic technology. I've been reading a lot about Nordic technology, and not just about how Indonesia is trying to adapt to it, how Asia in general is trying to adapt to Nordic technology. Can you briefly just give us maybe one or two pointers on what exactly are we talking about here with regard to Nordic technology? How different is it when you actually compare it to what you've seen in Asia?
Okay, so I would say the Nordics are world class in sustainable solutions.
Yes.
All sorts of sustainable solutions.
Right.
There's a lot of technology from the Nordics when it comes to energy. All sorts of energy: solar, hydropower, geothermal, nuclear power, waste to energy. Almost any wind power, of course, is a big one from Denmark. Almost any renewable energy, the Nordics has a lot to offer there. We're also very big in maritime, offshore, and shipping.
Right.
We have companies that are covering almost every angle of maritime and shipping and global trade. So the Nordic countries are very, very small countries, right? So we had to open up and get good at a few things and then export that to the world and import everything else. So that's our strategy, just like Singapore. And we also got really good in shipping and maritime. I would also highlight, in this case, aquaculture and fish farming is also something that we're really good at, and where there should be a lot of potential here in Southeast Asia, but also Indonesia especially. Especially Norwegian technology is really good when it comes to aquaculture and fish farming, all sorts of technologies there. So energy, shipping, maritime, and fish farming, and retail products could be added as well. Telecom, yeah.
When you look at it, when you look at the technology that's coming from Nordic countries, especially when it comes to talking about going green, talking about sustainability, I wouldn't say your members would actually be anybody just from the Nordic countries or just from Indonesia. They can actually be from any country in the world. If you are based in Indonesia, if your Nordic Chamber or Nordcham is based in Indonesia, be this company from any country in the world, they can actually come and sign up with Nordcham, because Nordcham actually has a lot to offer with regard to technology and growth and educating the business on the right way to go. Do you have members who are not from Indonesia and not from any of the Nordic countries?
Yeah, we do have some non-Nordic company members. As long as they don't compete with Nordic companies and that they can add value to the chamber, we can
Right.
accept members, right? So yeah, absolutely open to have non-Nordic company members where they can kind of fit in. But we can of course not have like Huawei sitting next to Nokia and Ericsson in a meeting, right? That would be a little bit awkward. But we have a couple of Singapore consultancies as a member where they don't compete with other companies and they can add a lot of value, have a lot of expertise that they can bring to the room. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay, tell us about the network that you have. I believe over the years you've actually created a network that your members can actually tap into. I do understand you covered a little bit of it at an earlier stage where you spoke about, that's the part you spoke about the real estate, how you actually make a connection for different people, let's say they're from real estate industry or be they from any other industry. How do you make the connections and what kind of network do you have to offer them at this point in time?
Yeah, so the core, of course, is Nordic companies in Indonesia, Nordic embassies, Nordic trade promotion offices, and other Nordic governmental agencies, export credit organizations. Nordic Innovation House is a hub to help scale up startups into markets around the world. Then we also have a wide range of experts and local players that we connect our members with as well. For instance, some of these companies that are non-Nordic that are part of the chamber,
Right.
we have some kind of like approved vendors that we can send companies to, and we know that they will be well taken care of. And also a bit like case by case basis, whatever that company needs to, who that person needs to meet. Yeah. And that's something we want to expand going forward as well, that network outside the chamber. But the plan has been so far to build that core Nordic community first and then go as a group and engage more with the Indonesian government.
Completely understandable. Completely understandable. Now, after laying dormant for about 2 years because of COVID, everybody wants to have activities, everybody wants to get together and find new opportunities to mingle and, basically not just to meet new people, not just to create new opportunities, because everybody's been waiting to get out there. Now, I do believe as the chamber itself, you have been holding yourself back because you also have, over the last 2 years, you also have wanted to create events. There's a lot of things that you couldn't do because of COVID. Now, after COVID, what are your plans? What kind of events do you have in the pipeline? Networking opportunities, ways that it can actually help people to meet other people, to reach out and expand their own frontiers. What do you have planned?
Yes, we have a few things planned. One is an upcoming event next month. With still in the planning stage, to be honest, but we want to do an event with the new Capital City Authority, IKN, and together with the Japanese Chamber and the American Chamber. That's something I'm really excited about because I think the new Capital City project is on top of mind for a lot of people and trying to figure out what opportunities are there.
Right.
And of course, it's going to be massive opportunities if it takes place, which is always a little bit unclear. And then we also want to we want to establish a couple of committees. So committees where the Nordic countries are really strong and the Nordics are world class when it comes to sustainability. So we want to have a sustainability committee where we would like to have Nordic companies come together, comparing notes how to do business sustainably in Indonesia, but also as a platform to interact with the Indonesian government and better understand how Nordic sustainable technology can help Indonesia reach its SDG goals and support Indonesia there. And we would also like to establish a maritime shipping and offshore committee,
Right.
because we have a lot of companies in that space, and we've seen some interest to have a group where they can discuss among each other and also approach Indonesian stakeholders there as well, such as Indonesian Ship Owners Association, port authorities, etc. So those are two concrete upcoming plans, new initiatives. Yeah.
Now, when you talk about getting members on board, and I believe over the last few years, of course, the membership rates have been dropping. A lot of members have not been signing up, but then again, that's being renewed. For your membership, can you give us a real-world example of maybe one member who has actually stayed with you throughout the COVID period, or somebody who has been with you before the COVID period, how they've actually benefited, a real-world example of how they've actually benefited through a membership with Nordcham?
Sure. So we have many examples of successfully putting the right people together, making introductions that leads to fruitful business outcomes.
Right.
So one example would be a company called Collectius. It's a Swedish-owned, Singaporean headquartered debt collection startup.
Right.
So they use software solutions to give debt collection a more friendly face. So they put the debtor as the customer. They put like a customer-centric approach to debt collection, where they really help this person pay down their debt and get back to get their financials in order and get back to life, kind of in the financial system, if you understand what I mean. So we connected them with a contact that we have in the chamber who's very well connected in the banking sector here, because they purchase non-performing loans and then help collect them. So that led to a fruitful collaboration, and they're doing really well now in this market. Another example, there was a Finnish mining technology company
Right.
where we connected. We did an event with them and the Finnish Export Credit Institution and Indonesian buyers to showcase examples of how they use this Finnish export credit solution to finance projects, and also kind of educating the Indonesian buyers on how attractive this financing is compared to other countries that have aggressive export credit solutions.
Right. Now, it's funny when you talk about this debt collection business, because in Singapore, all this while, it has not really been regulated, the debt collection industry. Right now, it is being looked into, and they are going to regulate, because in Singapore, what they will do is they'll put up a sign like this and say, debt collection in progress, please stay away. They don't even have to shout, they put up a sign like this and they go around collecting the debt. So I'm not sure, what have you seen with regard to debt collection in the past?
Far from a debt collection expert, but
Yeah.
in Indonesia, from what I have been reading and hearing, is that
In Indonesia?
In Indonesia, it used to be like you send a very scary looking person to your door, right? And you better pay up, right? And then I hear a little bit about some of these microfinancing companies. They're using shaming as their strategy to collect the debt. So they would create a WhatsApp group with a lot of friends and family of this person, and then shame that person, like this person hasn't paid his debt. So that's definitely a sector that has room for improvement, and this Swedish company is kind of representing a more humane approach.
Well, the illegal ones are very technologically advanced now. They're ordering food services. They're ordering food to the debtors' houses, having food delivered to the debtors' houses, and sending about 30 to 40 bikes to one house, and 30 to 40 people knocking on the door. Very technologically advanced.
Wow.
Now, what kind of companies and collaborative associations would you feel would actually play a role in addressing some of the key concerns of your current members?
So companies and associations that would play a role addressing some of the key concerns.
Of your existing members, because I do believe your existing members would actually require certain connections, like, so this is actually going to go out to our viewers who would say, hey, you know what, these are some of the connections that I actually want, and I believe if this chamber is actually actively working towards this is one chamber I want to come on board with.
Yeah.
So
I'll have to be a little bit careful what I say here, right? But a lot of the Nordic technology that we can offer is great in theory in Indonesia, right? But it doesn't work in practice because of regulations. For instance, there's a lot of challenges with getting some of these renewable energy solutions to Indonesia because of the current way the energy market is set up here, where you have PLN, the national energy. It's like a monopsony. It's a market where you only have one buyer.
Right.
So everyone has to sell their energy to PLN.
Right.
And with the current system, again, I'm not an expert about PLN and that system, but the current system does not work for many of these renewable energy technologies. So there's definitely changes that needs to happen there in order for more of these technologies to be market feasible, right? In order for it to be a profitable business. So we would like to work closer with PLN and Pertamina and some of these organizations. And would also say that if the Indonesian government were to improve the general business climate, the ease of doing business would also be great, and it's a good trend there. And
I think at this point they're very open to it. This is something that they are looking into very seriously and making the relevant changes at this point in time. So moving forward, I think they're creating a climate of creating a climate which is very suitable for new businesses to open up, for existing businesses to expand and to reach uncharted waters, reach territories they've not been able to collaborate with before as well.
And I'd just like to add one thing there, which makes me hopeful, is that you have, like in this region, Southeast Asia, you have countries competing against each other.
Yeah.
Because a new foreign investor will not necessarily say, I have to be in Indonesia. It's like, okay, I'll set up in Southeast Asia. Let's look at some of these different markets. So they're competing against each other. And what Vietnam has done has been very inspiring, right? They're really kind of rolling out the red carpet, the way I understand it. And that makes me hopeful that some of these countries will kind of look at each other and copy paste some good strategies to help the foreign investors find the market more attractive. And you see that in like COVID now as well, in tourism, right? Where Thailand opened up quite fast for tourists again.
Yes.
And then, okay, they took most of the tourists, right? Unless you follow that. So that makes me hopeful. Competition within Southeast Asia.
Competition is always good, helps you to improve. Without competition, it's like, hey, I'm very comfortable with what I'm doing. They're not going to do much, so nothing to compete with. I don't need to improve. Well, anyway, there are
We
many
love
companies.
competition in the Nordics. Absolutely.
That's amazing. Now, companies want to reach out and sign up for a membership with you. What kind of process do you have? Is it a very stringent process, very comprehensive, where you actually select your members? You have to go through a pretty stringent process, or is it very straightforward, very easy for them to sign up?
It's quite easy, I would say. So they could reach out, so send an email or send me a WhatsApp. You find the contact information on our website. For Nordic companies, it's very easy. You have to sign an agreement in order to make sure the business community stays friendly and nice as we intend. And for non-Nordic companies, we will do a screening and get to understand that company better, how they could fit in, and check that there's no competition. But yeah, we're absolutely welcoming more companies to join, and if they see the benefit.
I've noticed over the last few minutes you mentioned the word competition at least about 3 times. About bringing in people who would compete with existing members or who would compete with Nordic companies. Maybe you can explain exactly what the concern is with regard to competition, because I do believe people would say, hey, you know what, we do want to compete, competition is good, but at the end of the day, are my hands going to be tied when I actually get into this? So what do they have to look out for, and where do you draw the line with regard to competition?
Yes, that's a good question, because I'm saying that the Nordics are very much in favor of competition.
Yeah.
That said, to my understanding, like a chamber of commerce in a foreign country is like it's representing companies from those countries, right?
Right.
That's why you have to be a little bit careful having non-Nordic companies that are in the same industry, because we want to really help these companies succeed. Like that's our job, and if you have competitors there as well, it can be a bit problematic for that reason. But there are many sectors where the Nordics are not present there. So we can in some cases talk to the existing members if they feel it would be problematic to have this company on board. What do I want to say about that?
You know, competition, we always view it as healthy competition, something that is good to have, good for growth.
Yeah.
In certain cases, I do agree with you.
So just an example, right? So we have a monthly roundtable, like the
Right.
American Chamber one, where everyone shares in a Chatham House rule setting. They share what they see happening in the market. That could be sensitive information, it could be confidential information. That sharing session would be a little bit compromised if you have your competitors sitting with at the table with you. See what I mean? So it's like it needs to be it's in order to have a safe environment within the chamber. Like that's the main idea.
Understood, understood. But you are in
But-
no
but-
way
but we-
prioritizing. Are you prioritizing?
I want to mention there that we have events that are open for anyone to join,
Yeah,
but we have some closed events, right?
right,
And in those cases, we can't allow competing companies.
right. Understood. Now, I'm pretty sure the global business community would like to hear some things from you. Do you have any final words to say to the global business community, or to any Nordic company that's actually planning to move into Indonesia?
Yeah, so would like to welcome companies who are interested to learn more about the chamber and to have a discussion if they can benefit from what we do, and would love to invite them to join our chamber and reach out, and if nothing else, have a coffee or go for a lunch and have a good conversation.
Fantastic. Now, Magnus, thank you so much for spending time with us today. It has been a pleasure, and I believe I will be seeing you this Thursday during our event. We're going to be having an event in All Seasons Hotel. So what we are doing is we are actually bringing together chambers from around Indonesia, business associations, certain embassies as well, just to mingle, chat, and make new friends.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah,
Looking
so
forward to it.
I'll see you there.
Absolutely.
All right, cheers.
You have just watched the interview with Mr. Magnus Ramstad Dahl, the director of Nordcham Indonesia. To find out more about Nordcham Indonesia, feel free to click on the link below, and please leave your comments in the comment section. And remember to subscribe to watch more videos on interviews with chambers from around the world. I'll see you soon on The Chamber Guy.